While the United States and Europe have cemented themselves as a global power in air transportation over the last century, a shift in power has begun to take place over the last decade. The beginning of the 21st century has seen both the Middle East and Asia catch pace with the Western markets, and in some cases even surpass them. While the reasoning behind this increase in air travel has likely been due to economics and politics, right now we will focus on just the airport statistics. This can be done by focusing on three performance indicators. The first is annual passenger traffic, the second is annual air cargo, and the third is non-aeronautical revenue. According to the ACI, passenger traffic is one of the core indicators of the financial health of an airport. With that being said, there's been a big change in the airport traffic rankings during the last decade. As a list once dominated at the top by the United States and Europe, a pattern began in the early 2000s that saw a rise in total volume among airports in Middle Eastern and Asian countries. For example, according to the ACI's database, in 2000, only 5 out of the top 30 airports in terms of annual passenger volume belonged to either a Middle Eastern or Asian country. As the 2000s progressed, however, a sudden boom in passenger traffic emerged among Middle Eastern and Asian airports, resulting in an even spread on the 2011 top 30 list. The most notable increase in passenger volume during this time belongs to the international airports in both Dubai and Jakarta, both of which saw almost a 500% increase in passenger volume between 2000 and 2012. On the other hand, North American airports such as LAX, ORD, and DFW actually decreased in annual passenger volume during this time. Like annual passenger traffic, air cargo is considered to be a key indicator of the overall activity of an airport. To paint an accurate picture, air freight accounts for over 40% of global merchandise trade by value. It also provides annual revenues of almost $55 billion worldwide. With that said, the ACI Top 15 worldwide air cargo airports have changed significantly over the last 11 years. Although the numbers aren't as staggering as the traffic statistics, the eastern countries on this top 15 list have doubled from 4 in 2000 to 8 in 2011. The last performance indicator, non-aeronautical revenue, can be best understood as all operating profits realized by an airport that are not directly related to aeronautical activities. For example, aeronautical revenues are generally collected from such sources as landing fees, fuel charges, aircraft parking, and apron services. On the other hand, non-aero revenues come from such sources as concessions, passenger parking and airport access, rental car operations, land rent, and advertising. In an industry with a business cycle as volatile as commercial aviation, it is important for airports to generate stable profits. As a result, airports in today's economy have placed more value than ever on increasing their earnings from non-aeronautical sources. For example, U.S. airports generated nearly $8 billion in non-aero revenue in 2012, which accounted for 44% of total operating revenue. This recent trend of bigger revenue streams from non-aero sources has not been solely a North American practice. In fact, both Asia and Europe have posted similar numbers as well, with Middle Eastern countries steadily climbing as well, especially in Dubai. All in all, it appears that both America and Europe have reached a standstill in terms of airport performance indicators over the last decade, whereas Middle Eastern and Asian countries, on the other hand, have developed at an almost startling rate. With that said, I'd like to turn it over to Tyler, who will discuss market trends.
The worldwide air travel market is a living thing. It ebbs and flows, grows and ages. The Western markets of America and Europe are established and mature, while the markets of Asia and the Middle East are young, developing, and really just starting to take off. Both sides of the global market have their strengths and weaknesses. American and European markets have been the benchmark for success since the beginning of air travel. They're strong because they are deep in ranks and able to weather the storms that befall them. They have a set and structured routine that gets things done. Western aviation infrastructure is very extensive and with many international hubs and a large network of hub and spokes. The weaknesses of Western markets come in their aging infrastructure that must constantly be updated and replaced, and in their inefficient operation. The hub and spoke system relies on smaller regional aircraft that carry fewer passengers per flight, and less revenue occurs because of that. Asian and Middle Eastern markets find strength in their freedom to build and expand in any way that they please. This yields huge potential. Rather than being bogged down by inefficient regional operations, they're able to take full advantage of the international market, which is growing wildly compared to domestic travel. Western markets must change their ways and update to meet the needs of the 21st century passenger, while Eastern markets can simply build themselves to suit passenger needs. Eastern market infrastructure is new and up to date. Their aircraft are larger and newer, which means higher efficiency, smaller fleets, less maintenance, and a better passenger experience. Weaknesses of the eastern markets come in that they are still young, with a limited network and infrastructure. The density of airports in Asian and Middle Eastern nations is nowhere near that of North America and Europe. Because of this, destinations are limited in eastern markets. These markets are also still volatile and do not have a strong foothold. Any number of unforeseen circumstances such as catastrophic natural disaster, large-scale war, or economic downturn could cause the eastern markets to plunge underwater and never resurface, because any one of these events could knock out one or more of the few hubs, all of which are critical. The main reason for the eastern market's success over western markets is that they feed off of international travel. Western markets are forced to focus on domestic travel because their customer base requires it. The American and European customer has come to rely on domestic airline service. The East flies longer international trips in wide-body aircraft with more passengers per flight, while the West is stuck flying short trips in smaller, more inefficient airplanes. International travel is only poised to grow more and more into the future, while short-hop regional travel is definitely not. And this is where we'll see the eastern air travel markets rise to the top and pioneer air travel into the future. With that, I'll hand it off to Yu-Shin for an analysis on airport services.
I'd like to talk about airport services. To define what the best airport services are is difficult, because an airport is a special place, so many factors must be considered. In the international airports, there are general services such as tax-free shopping, dining, baby care, postal service, hotel service, prayer rooms, and smoking areas. However, these are not the best airport service, because passengers do not remember this kind of general services. According to Skytrax, which is the most famous aviation review and ranking site in the industry, we can see the world's best airports. I looked up some of the best airports by its services, and I found an interesting fact. In international airports in Eastern Asia has been ranked world's top 5 airports by its service. And I found why they are the best airports. The reason is they have their own unique services. An airport is the first place especially for foreigners to feel and start understanding of the country and its culture. And the top 3 airports have caught this point and started their cultural services. These airports are Incheon International Airport in South Korea and Singapore Changi International Airports and Hong Kong International Airports. Incheon International Airports provide free tour services to the capital of South Korea, which is called Korea Transit Tour Service. Every passengers who have more than 2 hours to wait for their next flight can enjoy the tour. With guides and tour buses, passengers can experience a glimpse of Korea's unique culture. Changi International Airports also provide heritage tour services. It's just like the Korea Transit Tour Service. Also, the airport has its own nature trail services in the airports. There are 5 themes of gardens for customers to get relaxed in the midst of nature at any of their airport gardens. Finally, Hong Kong International Airport opens so many kinds of exhibitions for passengers to see and understand Chinese culture, such as Tea Through the Ages exhibition. Passengers can experience Chinese tea drinking culture while they are waiting for their flight. I believe these unique services with their own culture characteristics have contributed to their airports to be the best airports in the world. Now I have talked about world's best airports and their unique services, and Lucio is going to talk about brief history about airports.
Alright, I'll talk about the history and the investigative background for the Western and Eastern airports. The first one is Singapore Chongqing Airport, which is 13 square kilometers large and is the home base of the Singapore Airlines. At the May 2013, Chongqing Airport serviced more than 100 airlines operating 6,400 weekly flights connecting Singapore to over 250 cities around the world. An important contributor to the economy of the Singapore, these airports have more than 28,000 people are employed at the airports and make the over $4.5 billion in output. Chongqing Airport has 3 passenger terminals, which is a total annually handling capability of the 6 million passengers. Terminal 1 opened on 1981, followed by the Terminal 2 in 1990, and Terminal 3 in the 2008. The budget terminal will be make way for the Terminal 4, which will be ready for by 2017. In 2012, the airports handled 51.2 million passengers, which is 10% increase over the previous year. The airports have 30 best awards in 2012. The old airport, Changlong Airport, opened in the 1955, which is the old one, the aviation for the transport. And these airports were facing a congestion problem. And then the government have 2 options: expand the existing airports or make new airports at another location. After extensive study, a decision was made in 1972 to keep the airports at the Paya Lebar, but the government subsequently decided in 1975 to build new airports at the eastern tip of the main island at Chongqing. The first phasing cost is about $1.3 billion, open on the July 1st in 1981 with the first flights. The big aircraft hangar was only complete in 1 year later, and then the second runway were complete only in 1983. This was the year in which the now defunct government department. In 1985, the construction work on the Terminal 2 will start. The Terminal 2 was complete in 1989 and was opened on November 1990, which is officially open in another year later. Then I talk about the Renjuan International Airport, the primary airport serving the Seoul International Capital Area, and is the one of the largest and biggest airports in the world. For 7 years in a row, from the 2005 and 2012, it was rated the best airports in the worldwide by Airports Council International. The airports have the golf course, spa, private sleeping room, ice king, and a museum of the Korean culture. And its free duty shopping mall has been rated of the world's best for 3 years in a row. The Renjuan International Airport also claimed that they only have a 0.0001% baggage mishandling rate. It is the main hub for the Korean Air, Asiana Airline, Jeju Airline, and the Polar Air Cargo. The airport serves as the hub for the international civil aviation, airport transportation, and cargo transport in the Eastern Asia. The airport's railway connects to the Renjuan airports and to the downtown, which just costs an express train 43 minutes, and the regular trains which stops in the all station takes 53 minutes to the source station. After the Seoul Olympic of the 1988, to reduce the load of the Chimbo International Airport, they have a constructing consideration in Renjuan Airport began, which is in the 1992, and it took 8 years to the construction, which have the additional 6 months to test it. The airport was officially opened in the March 2001, and then we'll transfer to the Europe. Let's talk about Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. The Schiphol is important Europe airport, ranking as Europe's 4th busiest. The airport is built as one large terminal, single terminal concept, split into 3 large departure halls, which cover, again, airside. The most recent of this was completed in 1994, and they expanded in 2007 with a new part named Terminal 4. Also, this part is not recognized as a spread building. Plans for future terminal expansion exist, including the construction of the spreaded new terminal runways that would end at the one terminal concept. Because of the intense traffic and high landing fees, some low-cost carriers decide to move their flights to smaller airports. Singapore has large shopping areas as a source of the revenue and as an additional attraction for passengers. Singapore plays is a shopping center before the customer, hence it is used by the air travelers and the non-travelers visitors. In the summer 2010, the world's first perimeter airport library opened in there, providing passenger access to a collection of 1,200 books on the subjects related to the country's history and culture. And there have the area is 968 quarter squares. A library offers e-books and the music by the Dutch artists and the composers that can be downloaded free for charge to a laptop or mobile device. Then the U.S. airports, San Francisco International Airport. The airport opened on May 7, 1927 on the 150 acres of the coal patch. It was named Millsfield Metropolitan Airport until 1931. When it became San Francisco Municipal Airport, Municipal was replaced by International in 1955. United Airlines used Millsfield in the 1930s. In 1947, San Francisco is now one of the 5 United Airlines hubs and their largest maintenance facility. In 1954, the airport's Center Passenger Terminal opened. It has heavily rebuilt into the International Terminal in 1984. In 1989, a master plan and environment impact report was prepared to guide development over the next 2 decades. During the boom of the 1990s and the dot-com boom, San Francisco became the 6th busiest airport in the world. But since 2001, when the boom ended, San Francisco has fallen out of the top 20. The airport has expanded through the decades. $1 billion value international terminal opened in the December 2000, replacing the Terminal 2. This terminal has an aviation library and a museum. San Francisco's long-running program of the cultural exhibits, now called the San Francisco Airport Museum. Now, since up the overall information, I hope we can help to get understanding for the difference in facts from the eastern and western airports. Thank you.